So Matt, you got a non-hand call here, right? What was your question in general here about poker?
Yeah, kind of being new and especially new to like live and cash games.
Mhm.
I guess my question to you was, what would you say to a beginner? What tips would you give to a beginner? Kind of sitting down at the table and trying to learn, but there's like social media and there's a lot of new players on social media that are really pushing poker, and it's really exciting.
Well, well,
I feel like
can I help? Can I help you with your question? Because when you had emailed in, you had actually had used the word toxicity, right?
yes, yes, and I feel like so like for somebody kind of getting into the realm and seeing that really like positive aspect of it, like on social media, to sit down at a table, it can sometimes be like,
A little bit of a letdown, the actual reality of it.
I think so, like, and it can it can also be like the complete opposite of like what you see. And don't get me wrong, like I do like that. I mean, it's I think I mentioned it's cutthroat, and anybody that knows or seen movies. I kind of got into poker by like I'll never forget it, and this is a little bit of a story, but when I moved from my hometown for the first time, I had really didn't have any money, didn't really have a good job, but I probably had like $50 to my name, and I had a TV and a mattress when I moved into my new apartment. And the only thing that I bought for the place was a DVD player, a couple of DVDs. I don't know if you remember, like they used to sell DVDs with like the flip sides, like the double feature.
Yeah.
And one of them was Wild Wild West, and the flip side was Maverick with Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster.
I was actually named after that movie, not the new one, but the old one.
Really? Oh, that's
Bart,
great.
Bart Maverick.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you love poker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's yeah. Long story short, that's how I kind of
Yeah.
got into
So,
it.
so,
And
so I got a couple thoughts on this. I mean, the whole thing with the vlogger thing, it's great that the vloggers have brought new attention to the game and maybe have, brought somebody like you into the game. And I think it's been really, really good for poker. I mean, I don't know if you want to call it unfortunate. I mean, it's like TV. Like, what is the reality of a certain situation? Like, when you watch a movie, is that like the real world? No. And the same thing can be said about poker vloggers and also too like live streams. Unfortunately, the reality of actual going and playing like a 2-5 or a 1-3 game at your local casino is not going to be anywhere near as exciting as some of the stuff that's put out on social media and these vlogger hands or stuff that you see on live stream. I mean, live streams, it's not real poker in the sense that you're never going to get a game like that at the stakes that they play. It's not really a reflection of what poker actually is. Now, does that mean that it's bad for the game? No, it's good for the game because it brings people into the game. But if you're a new poker player, you have to understand that going in, and you'll quickly come to the realization that, oh, poker is not like what I see on YouTube all the time and in some of these live streams. Now, on the topic of like the types of players that are in the game too, especially these grinders sort of like at the low stakes and the toxicity overall of the game, yeah, man, I mean, it can really, really suck. I mean, not only is it cutthroat, but you got to watch out for a lot of scumbags and anglers and just a lot of degenerates. And what I mean by degenerates is like, there's a lot of people that have like gambling problems. And they're not necessarily like trying to steal your money to steal your money per se, but they're trying to stay in action. They're trying to angle to stay in action and do scummy things to stay in action because they have gambling problems. So you kind of see that. I mean, I think actually the biggest scumbags are the guys that actually have money. And I've run into them like at high stakes games that are really, really successful and that are rich guys and will still try to fuck you over. Will still try to angle you, even though the money doesn't mean anything to them because they just want to like win and they don't care, if they want to play by the rules or not. So you don't like run across the best, I would say, people overall in poker. There are some really good people that you run across in poker, but there are some really, really bad ones too. And there are some miserable ones. And, you get all walks of life, but it is kind of a solitary game. And I just think for everybody going in, you have to kind of know the reality of it and, be friendly, be sociable. But the most important thing I think you can take away from this is you always have to watch out for yourself because nobody else is going to protect you. We've talked about things like Sometimes when you get off of the table and somebody might steal your chips and the casino's not going to make good on that. We know that. Casino's not going to make good on that. So, and people that might run an angle, like you guys decide to like run it twice in a game where it's technically not really allowed as you move up into the higher stakes. And then I would, and then all of a sudden, like you do it anyways and you lose the first run and the guy's like, wait a minute, you can't run it twice in this casino, stuff like that. So I would never make that deal where it wasn't like in the house rules unless I knew the other person. Another thing too that you got to realize is that no matter how nice somebody is to you, never fucking loan money to anyone in gambling. I can count the number of times that I have ever loaned any money to anybody. And it was only with my very, very close friends, like on a short-term thing, like they didn't bring money to the casino at a certain time. They had that whole thing that went down, 6 to 12 months ago with like Rampage, where he loaned some guy like several $100,000 at like a crazy interest rate, and then he didn't get paid back. Again, I think with that particular situation too, that particular guy had a gambling problem. It doesn't make it right, but he's just trying to stay in action. You always have to look out for yourself. Poker's a solitary game. It can be very, very boring, and it's not for everyone because there's a lot of folding that goes on. But once you can get past that and just set in your brain, never, ever loan money to anyone, then, you take the environment for what it is. Knock on wood, I've actually never been ripped off. I mean, I see people, high stakes people that are owed hundreds of thousands of dollars. And maybe it was a little bit of a different environment when people were playing a lot of online and high stakes, but it still amazes me. But I don't have anybody that owes me money, knock on wood. But if you follow that sort of credence and that advice, I think that you'll be fine. But yeah, you just got to realize that the game, there's ups and downs. It can move slow, and it's not as glamorous as a lot of people who aren't in the community think. I don't know what your goal is, Matt, for poker, if you're doing it like as a side gig to try to make a little bit of money or what. But anybody who strives to be a professional poker player, it's a hard job, especially nowadays. With the rate going up and the public availability of like real-time solvers and things like that, way more available than when I first started. It's a really, really tough gig, and I wouldn't recommend it for most people unless maybe you were single, had a low monthly nut, and you didn't have any responsibilities, because to like support a family with it is very, very difficult.
Yeah, definitely not trying to like delve into the pro scene or anything like that. It's more of like a thing. Like I said, it's just been really good for me. I really like the game, and super grateful for the platform you have is super great. It's the videos and I'm a SLP, subscriber to your stuff. It's just very, very accessible. So thanks a lot. That was my main thought in sending you the email.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for the call, Matt.